Nathaniel Brooks sat in his lavish office, a modern marvel framed by tall, glass windows that overlooked the city skyline. The soft hum of the air conditioning provided a sterile background noise, yet it did little to alleviate the suffocating silence that enveloped him. His desk, polished to a mirror finish, was strewn with paperwork that seemed to multiply overnight, each document a reminder of his responsibilities as a successful businessman. But despite the opulence surrounding him, fine art adorning the walls, a plush leather chair that cradled his frame, and the faint scent of expensive cologne lingering in the air, an overwhelming sense of emptiness gnawed at his insides. He glanced at the framed photograph on his desk, a snapshot from a happier time. In it, he was beaming, his mother Martha beside him, both of them radiating joy that felt like a lifetime ago. "Things have changed so much," he murmured to himself, the words barely escaping his lips. The reality of his life weighed heavily on him. His mother's health was declining, and every day brought new challenges that he felt ill-equipped to face. The grand mansion, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoed with loneliness, each room a haunting reminder of what they had lost. Nathaniel leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair, feeling the tension in his shoulders. He had devoted himself to his work, pouring every ounce of energy into his company, hoping to distract himself from the inevitable. But no matter how many contracts he signed or deals he closed, the void inside him only deepened. "I need to be there for her," he whispered, a flicker of determination igniting within him. He had to be strong for Martha. She deserved that much. After what felt like an eternity, Nathaniel finally pushed away from his desk and made his way to the bedroom where his mother rested. The mansion felt even larger without the warmth of her presence, and the silence became almost oppressive as he walked down the long hallway. The walls, adorned with family portraits, seemed to watch him, their eyes filled with unspoken stories and memories. He paused momentarily before a photo of his younger self, full of dreams and aspirations, a stark contrast to the man he had become. Entering Martha's room, he found her lying in bed, the soft light filtering through the curtains casting a gentle glow on her frail frame. She looked smaller than he remembered, the illness having stolen much of her vitality. "Nathaniel," she said, her voice a whisper, yet it was filled with love, a balm to his troubled heart. "How was your day?" He forced a smile, sitting on the edge of her bed. "Busy as always, Mom. You know how it is." He reached for her hand, the warmth of her skin grounding him. "How are you feeling today?" "Better, I think," she replied, though Nathaniel could see the fatigue etched on her face. "But I miss you. You're always working." "I know," he said, guilt creeping into his tone. "I'm trying to make sure you're taken care of. I just want to give you the best." The words fell hollow, echoing the very emptiness he felt inside. He wished he could provide her with more than just material comfort. Martha studied him closely, her eyes filled with understanding. "You've done so much for me, Nathaniel. But sometimes it's not about things. It's about moments. It's about connection." She paused, her gaze drifting to the window, where the world continued to bustle outside, oblivious to their suffering. "You're so busy building your empire that you forget to live." A lump formed in Nathaniel's throat. "I'm trying to make you proud," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "I don't want to fail you." "You won't," she assured him, squeezing his hand gently. "But don't forget to let people in. You're not alone in this, you know." Her words struck a chord deep within him, a reminder of the isolation he had wrapped himself in. The thought of letting anyone in felt foreign, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that perhaps she was right. Their conversation drifted into memories, laughter mingling with the sadness of their current reality. They reminisced about family gatherings, holidays spent surrounded by loved ones, and the warmth of their home when it was filled with joy. But as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the room, Nathaniel felt the weight of time pressing down on him. He knew their moments together were limited, and the thought was almost unbearable. As he left his mother's side, Nathaniel felt a heaviness in his heart. He had always believed that his wealth would provide happiness, but the truth was starkly different. He wandered through the mansion, each room a reminder of a life he had built, a life that felt more like a gilded cage than a sanctuary. Later that day, as he drove home, his mind raced with thoughts of his mother and the burden of their situation. The streets were busy with the evening rush, and he found himself stopped at a red light, staring vacantly out the window. It was then that he noticed her, a small girl, no older than 10, standing on the corner of the street. She was bundled in tattered clothing, shivering as she clutched a small box of candies, her eyes wide and hopeful. There was something haunting about her gaze, a depth of sorrow that belied her youth. Nathaniel's heart twisted at the sight. He saw a reflection of vulnerability that he couldn't ignore. The world around him faded as he locked eyes with the girl, and in that moment, he felt an ache within him, a flicker of compassion breaking through the cold facade he had built around his heart. He glanced at the clock on his dashboard, then back at her. What if she needs help? A voice inside him whispered, challenging the comfortable detachment he had cultivated over the years. He could easily drive away, returning to the solitude of his mansion, but something held him back. As the light turned green, Nathaniel hesitated. The girl's small frame seemed to shrink further under the weight of the world, and in that instant, he made a decision that would change the course of his life. With a quick turn of the steering wheel, he pulled over to the curb, his heart racing. "What are you doing?" he muttered under his breath, uncertainty flooding his mind. He had always prided himself on being a man of reason, of control. But the sight of the girl stirred something deep inside him that he thought he had long buried. Taking a deep breath, he rolled down his window, the rush of cool air filling the car. "Hey there," he called out, his voice steady despite the chaos of emotions swirling within him. "Would you like to come over here for a moment?" The girl looked up, surprise flickering across her features as she took a cautious step forward. "Really?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if she were afraid to believe it. "Yeah," Nathaniel replied, his heart pounding. "I can get you something to eat. You must be hungry." Her eyes widened, and for a brief moment, Nathaniel saw a glimmer of hope. "Okay," she said hesitantly, stepping closer to the car. As he opened the door, he felt a weight lift off his shoulders, though he couldn't quite understand why. Perhaps it was the promise of connection, or maybe it was the chance to step beyond the walls he had built around himself. Whatever it was, Nathaniel knew that this moment, however small, could lead to something more, a spark of compassion igniting in his otherwise isolated life. As he beckoned her closer, he felt the tide of change begin to swell within him. Unaware of the profound impact this small girl would have on his life, and the revelations that awaited both of them in the days to come. Nathaniel Brooks sat in his car, the engine idling softly as he watched the little girl on the corner of the street. Her thin frame trembled against the biting cold, and her fingers, raw and red, clutched a small box of candies. She was doing her best to sell them, but Nathaniel could see the hopelessness in her eyes. Those eyes, large and pleading, seemed to penetrate the layers of his carefully constructed emotional barriers. In that moment, he felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years, an urge to help. Drawing a deep breath, he turned the steering wheel and pulled over to the curb. The car was warm and filled with the faint scent of leather and expensive cologne, a stark contrast to the harsh realities of the street. He opened the passenger door, the soft click echoing in the silence of the night. "Hey there," he called gently, trying to soften the edge of his commanding voice. "Would you like to come inside? I can get you something warm to eat." Lily took a cautious step forward, her eyes wide with uncertainty. "You want to help me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if she feared that speaking too loudly would shatter this fleeting moment of kindness. "Yes," Nathaniel replied, his heart racing with a mix of apprehension and hope. "I promise I'll take care of you for the night. You can have a warm meal and a safe place to sleep." After a moment that felt like an eternity, she nodded slowly. He watched as she climbed in, her small body curling into itself as she settled into the plush seat. He felt an unexpected warmth spread through him as he turned the ignition. "What's your name?" he asked, glancing at her. "Lily," she said, her voice steadying. "What's yours?" "Nathaniel." "It's nice to meet you, Lily." He smiled, and she offered a tentative smile in return. The drive to his mansion was quiet, the only sounds being the soft hum of the engine and the occasional rustle from the back seat as Lily adjusted her position. Nathaniel stole glances at her through the rearview mirror, noticing the way her gaze shifted to the passing lights, wide-eyed and curious. It reminded him of a time long past when he, too, had looked at the world with wonder. When they arrived at the mansion, Nathaniel felt a familiar weight settle on his shoulders. The grand structure loomed above them, its opulence a stark contrast to the girl sitting behind him. He stepped out of the car and opened the door for her. "Welcome to my home," he said, gesturing for her to follow him inside. Lily hesitated for a moment, looking up at the large, imposing building. "Is it always this quiet?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Most of the time," Nathaniel admitted, leading her inside. "It's just me and my mother. She's not well, so it can feel a bit lonely." As they entered the vast foyer, Lily's eyes widened in awe. The marble floors glistened under the soft glow of the chandelier, and the walls were adorned with paintings that depicted scenes of grandeur. "Wow," she breathed, taking it all in. "Come on, let's get you something to eat," Nathaniel said, trying to distract her from the heavy atmosphere that often accompanied the mansion. He led her to the kitchen, which was equipped with all the latest appliances. "What do you like to eat, Lily?" I don't know," she replied, her brow furrowing in thought. "I haven't had much to eat lately." "Okay, how about a grilled cheese sandwich?" Nathaniel suggested, moving towards the fridge. "It's simple, but I can make it really good." Lily nodded, and Nathaniel set to work. As the bread toasted and the cheese melted, he couldn't help but steal glances at her. She seemed to relax a bit, her posture less tense as she took in the kitchen's warmth. "So, how long have you been out there?" he asked, trying to keep the conversation light. "Since my mom got sick," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "She couldn't take care of me anymore. And then she just disappeared." Nathaniel's heart sank. He could sense the weight of her words, the pain behind them. "I'm really sorry to hear that," he said softly. "I can't imagine how hard that must be." Lily shrugged, her eyes downcast. "It's just me now. I try to make enough money selling candies, but sometimes it's not enough. Tonight, it will be enough," Nathaniel assured her, placing a plate with the grilled cheese in front of her on the kitchen island. "Eat up. You need to be strong." As she took the first bite, a look of bliss crossed her face. "This is really good," she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up for the first time since they met. Nathaniel chuckled, a genuine smile breaking through his usual demeanor. "Glad you like it. It's a family recipe. Well, sort of. My mother used to make it for me all the time." Lily looked up, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "What's she like?" She's wonderful," Nathaniel replied, his voice tinged with a hint of sadness. "But she's not herself anymore. Alzheimer's has taken so much from her." Lily nodded, her expression shifting to one of understanding. "I'm sorry," she murmured. Nathaniel waved it off, trying to maintain a brave face. Let's not dwell on sadness tonight, okay? You're safe here. After finishing her meal, Lily felt a warmth spreading through her that she hadn't experienced in a long time. Thank you, Nathaniel, for everything, she said earnestly. I didn't expect anyone to be kind to me. Nathaniel felt a stirring in his heart, a sense of responsibility awakening within him. You deserve kindness, Lily. Everyone does. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his own isolation start to lift just a little. Once they finished eating, Nathaniel led Lily to the living room, a grand space filled with plush furniture and a large fireplace that crackled with warmth. As they entered, the light from the flames flickered, casting playful shadows on the walls. Make yourself comfortable, he said, motioning to the couch. Lily sat down cautiously, still taking in the opulence around her. But then, as if on cue, a soft voice broke through the silence. Nathaniel. His heart raced as he turned to see his mother, Martha, sitting up in her armchair, her eyes wide with surprise. The sight of the little girl struck her with an unmistakable recognition. Who is this? She asked, her voice shaky yet filled with a strange urgency. This is Lily, Mom, Nathaniel replied, moving closer. He could feel the tension in the room thickening as Martha's gaze fixed on the girl. I found her on the street, and I thought. Lily, Martha interrupted, her voice cracking with emotion. I know you. Lily blinked, confusion etched on her face. You do? Yes, Martha breathed, as tears began to well in her eyes. You look just like her, just like your mother. Nathaniel's heart raced. What do you mean? Mom, who is she? I need to remember, Martha stammered, her hands trembling as she clutched the armrests of her chair. Please, give me a moment. Lily's expression shifted from confusion to concern, and she looked at Nathaniel for reassurance. Is she okay? She asked softly. Nathaniel felt a knot tighten in his stomach. She needs a little time, he replied, stepping closer to his mother. Mom, it's okay. Just breathe. Martha closed her eyes, and for a moment, the room was silent except for the crackling of the fire. When she finally opened them, her gaze was focused, a flicker of clarity shining through the fog of her illness. Your mother. She was my best friend, she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. We lost touch after the accident. Lily's eyes widened, and her breath caught in her throat. You knew my mom? Yes, Martha said, her voice thick with emotion. We were like sisters. I never wanted to lose her. The revelation hung in the air, and Nathaniel felt a whirlwind of emotions crash over him. He glanced at Lily, whose face was a mix of shock and hope. The pieces of this unexpected puzzle were beginning to fit together in ways he never anticipated, and the implications of their connection began to unravel, revealing the fragile threads of fate that had brought them together. Nathaniel stood frozen in the doorway, his brow furrowed as he stared at his mother, Martha. The way her eyes widened with recognition sent a shiver down his spine. He had seen that look before, the way she seemed to reach into the depths of her fading memory, grasping at fragments of the past that eluded her. This time, however, it was different. This time, she was looking at Lily, the little girl he had brought into their lives only days ago. Mom. Nathaniel's voice was thick with uncertainty. What do you mean she's important? Who is she? Martha took a deep breath, her frail hands trembling as she clutched the edge of her blanket, her gaze never leaving Lily. There's something about her, Nathaniel. I can't explain it, but I feel a connection. We must care for her. Lily stood quietly by the fireplace, her small frame silhouetted against the flickering flames. The shadows danced on her face, accentuating the sadness in her eyes. She shifted uncomfortably, sensing the weight of the conversation, but not fully comprehending it. Mom, she's just a girl, Nathaniel insisted, though his heart ached at the thought of Lily being labeled as just anything. A girl who needs a home for now. We can help her, but I don't understand why you seem so affected by her. Martha's expression softened as she looked back at Nathaniel. Sometimes, we don't understand why certain people come into our lives. But I know, deep down, she's meant to be here with us. Nathaniel sighed, running a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of his mother's words settling heavily on his chest. He turned to look at Lily again, who had started to fidget, her eyes darting between the two adults. Lily, He called gently, kneeling to her level. "Are you okay? You don't have to worry. We're just talking." She nodded, though the uncertainty lingered in her gaze. "I'm fine, sir. I don't want to be a bother." "Not at all," he reassured her, forcing a smile. "You're not a bother. We want you here." As days turned into weeks, Lily became an integral part of their household. She took to helping Nathaniel with chores around the mansion, her laughter echoing through the once quiet halls, bringing a warmth that had long been absent. She dusted the ornate furniture, washed the dishes, and even helped Martha with her daily routines. Each small task seemed to infuse the house with a new energy, and Nathaniel found himself smiling more often, his heart warming to the girl who had once been a stranger. "Do you really like cleaning?" he asked one evening as they tidied up the living room together. Lily shrugged, her brow furrowing in thought. "I like making things nice. It feels good when it's clean." Nathaniel chuckled softly. I used to hate cleaning. I'd rather be outside playing with my friends." "Did you have a lot of friends?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "Some," he replied, his voice trailing off as memories of his childhood flickered in his mind. "But things changed as I grew older. I focused more on work, on my responsibilities." Lily looked up at him, her eyes wide with wonder. "What kind of work?" "I run a business," Nathaniel said, trying to keep the explanation simple. "But it's not as fun as it sounds. It's mostly meetings and numbers." "Sounds boring," she said with a seriousness that made him laugh. "It can be," he admitted, "but it pays the bills." Their conversations flowed easily, and Nathaniel found himself sharing more about his past than he had intended. With every story, he felt the walls he had built around his heart begin to crumble. There was something about Lily that made him want to reveal himself, to let her see the person he used to be, before the weight of responsibility had pressed down on him so heavily. One evening, as Nathaniel and Lily were sitting on the couch, Martha entered the room, her expression contemplative. She watched them for a moment before speaking. "You two seem to be getting along quite well." Lily smiled, a bright grin that illuminated her features. "Mr. Brooks tells me stories about when he was my age." Martha's eyes sparkled with emotion as she looked at her son. "That's lovely to hear. Nathaniel, you should continue sharing those memories with her. They're a part of who you are." Nathaniel nodded, but a tinge of discomfort crept into his chest. "I don't want to dwell too much on the past, Mom. Sometimes, we need to remember to move forward," Martha said softly, her voice laced with an understanding that Nathaniel often found hard to accept. "And sometimes, the past has a way of coming back to us in unexpected forms." "What do you mean?" he asked, a hint of defensiveness creeping into his tone. "Just think about it," she replied, her gaze returning to Lily, who was now quietly playing with a stray thread on the couch. "There's something special about her, Nathaniel. Don't close your heart to it." Days turned into weeks, and the mansion transformed into a home, filled with laughter and light. Yet, Nathaniel couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was at play. He watched as Martha grew more animated around Lily, her spirit seemingly rekindled by the girl's presence. One afternoon, as they sat together in the sun-drenched garden, Martha turned to Nathaniel, her voice filled with emotion. Lily reminds me of someone from our past, someone I lost." "Mom, please," Nathaniel interrupted, feeling a rush of anxiety. "I don't think we should dwell on the past. But we must understand it," she insisted, her eyes pleading. "There are connections that go beyond what we can see, Nathaniel. I believe Lily has a part in our story." Nathaniel shook his head, unable to fathom the implications of his mother's words. "She's just a girl in need, Mom. That's all." Martha's expression grew pained, and Nathaniel felt a pang of guilt for dismissing her so harshly. "I know you want to protect her, but please keep your heart open," she urged gently. "You never know what healing she might bring." Nathaniel sighed, the weight of his mother's words settling in his mind like a thick fog. He wanted to believe her, to see Lily as something more than a temporary solution to their loneliness, but the fear of vulnerability held him back. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the garden, Nathaniel found himself lost in thought. He glanced over at Lily, who was now chasing butterflies, her laughter ringing through the air like music. There was something undeniably special about her, and perhaps his mother was right. But the fear of loss lingered, a shadow that loomed over the budding connection he felt. "Lily," he called, and she turned, her face lighting up with joy. "Come here for a moment." She bounded over, her hair flying behind her like a halo. "Yes, Mr. Brooks. Do you like living here?" he asked, his heart racing as the question left his lips. "It's the best," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. "I've never had a place like this." Nathaniel felt a warmth spread through him, but he couldn't shake the doubts that clouded his mind. "And what about your family? Do you miss them?" Lily's expression faltered for a moment, and Nathaniel felt a pang of regret for bringing up a potentially painful subject. I don't have a family," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathaniel's heart ached at the vulnerability in her words. "You do now," he said quietly, hoping to offer her some comfort. "You're part of our family." Lily smiled, and for a moment, Nathaniel felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was a chance for healing, not just for them, but for all three of them. Yet, as he looked at Martha, who was watching them with a knowing gaze, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to uncover, more connections to explore. The days continued to pass, and, as they did, Nathaniel found himself wrestling with his fears. Lily's presence brought a light into the mansion that he had long thought extinguished, but it also stirred memories he had buried deep within his heart. With every interaction, he felt the walls around him begin to crack, exposing the raw vulnerability he had long avoided. As he watched Martha and Lily together, he couldn't help but wonder what secrets lay beneath the surface. What was it about Lily that resonated so deeply with his mother? What connection did they share that he had yet to uncover? One evening, as they sat together in the dimly lit living room, Nathaniel decided to address the elephant in the room. "Mom, what is it about Lily that you see? What do you mean when you say she's important?" Martha looked at him, her eyes reflecting a depth of emotion he couldn't quite decipher. "I can't explain it, Nathaniel. It's just a feeling, something instinctual. But I believe she's here for." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Nathaniel, Lily, and Martha settled into their cozy living room. The atmosphere was a soft blend of warmth and uncertainty, punctuated by the crackling sound of the fireplace. Nathaniel had decided to share stories from his childhood, hoping to bridge the gap that still lingered between him and the young girl who had unexpectedly entered their lives. "Did I ever tell you about the time I built a treehouse?" Nathaniel began, a faint smile creeping onto his face as he recalled the memory. He leaned back in his chair, glancing at Lily, who sat cross-legged on the floor, her eyes wide with curiosity. "I was about your age, maybe a little older. I used to think I was the king of the world up there." "What happened?" Lily asked, leaning forward, her interest piqued. "Well," Nathaniel chuckled, "I was so proud of my creation. I invited all my friends over. We had a great time until one of them decided it would be funny to jump from the top. He didn't quite make it, landed right in the bush below. He shook his head, a playful glint in his eye. We all thought he'd broken something, but he just got a bad case of the giggles." Lily giggled in response, her laughter a musical sound that brightened the room. "That's hilarious. Did he get in trouble?" "Not really. His mom was more concerned about him ruining my tree house than anything else," Nathaniel replied, his smile fading slightly as he remembered the carefree days of his youth. "But it was a good time. We were all so innocent back then, before life got complicated." Martha, who had been quietly listening, interjected, "Life tends to throw us curveballs as we grow older, doesn't it? Sometimes we forget what it was like to just play." Nathaniel nodded, glancing at his mother, her frail form wrapped in a soft blanket. "You're right, Mom. I've been so caught up in work and responsibilities that I've lost touch with that part of myself." Lily looked at him earnestly. "But you're not like that anymore, right? You care about me and your mom. That's what matters." The young girl's sincerity struck a chord in Nathaniel's heart. He had spent years building walls around his emotions, convinced that vulnerability was a weakness. Yet, here he was, sharing laughter and memories with a girl who had nothing but a hopeful spirit. "I'm trying to be better," he admitted, his voice low. "I want to be someone who can help." "Do you have dreams, Lily?" he asked, shifting the focus to her. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Her eyes sparkled as she thought about her answer. "I want to be a veterinarian. I love animals, and I want to help them." "That's a noble dream," Nathaniel said, genuinely impressed. "Do you have any pets?" Lily shook her head, the enthusiasm in her voice dimming slightly. "I used to have a kitten, but I had to leave her behind when I had to leave my old life." Nathaniel's heart ached at her words, the weight of her reality crashing down on him. "I'm sorry, Lily. That must have been really hard for you." "It was, but I hope to have a pet again one day," she said, her resolve returning. "And I'll make sure to take care of it properly this time, just like you take care of your mom." Speaking of which, Martha interjected gently, "I think we should all work on our dreams together. Nathaniel, you could pick up on some of your childhood interests, and Lily, you can learn how to care for animals." Nathaniel felt a flicker of hope at his mother's words. Perhaps he could rediscover his passions, too, and in doing so, forge a stronger bond with Lily. "That sounds like a plan. We can start small. Maybe a little garden." "A garden?" Lily exclaimed, her face lighting up. "Can we plant flowers? I love flowers." "Of course," Nathaniel replied, his mind racing with ideas. "We could plant vegetables, too. It'll be our little project." "Can we plant sunflowers?" Lily asked eagerly. "They're my favorite." "Sunflowers it is," Nathaniel affirmed, the excitement in Lily's voice infectious. He felt a spark of happiness he hadn't experienced in years, and for the first time in a long time, he envisioned a future that didn't feel so heavy. As their conversation flowed, Martha began to exhibit moments of clarity. "You know, Nathaniel," she said thoughtfully, "there's something about Lily that reminds me of someone from our past." Nathaniel paused, his gaze shifting from Lily to his mother. "What do you mean?" he asked, curiosity piqued. "Who do you see?" Martha struggled to articulate her thoughts, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It's just little things, her laugh, her spirit. It's almost as if she carries a piece of that person with her." "Mom, you've been having these moments more often lately. Are you sure you're feeling okay?" Nathaniel asked, concern creeping into his voice. "I'm fine, dear. Just memories surfacing," Martha replied, her eyes misting over. "There was a tragedy, something that changed everything for us." Nathaniel frowned, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach. "What kind of tragedy?" She hesitated, as if the weight of her memories was too much to bear. "It's complicated. There was a girl. She was dear to us. She didn't make it." The air grew heavy with unspoken words, and Nathaniel felt a chill run down his spine. "A girl? Who was she?" Martha's eyes clouded as she struggled to remember. I can't put it into words right now. I just know that we lost something precious, something that left us fragmented." Lily, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, quietly listened. "Is it okay if I go to bed?" she asked softly. "Of course, sweetie," Nathaniel said, his voice soothing. "We'll talk more tomorrow. You should get some rest." As Lily stood to leave, she cast a lingering look at Martha, who seemed lost in thought. "Good night, Mrs. Brooks. I hope you feel better." "Good night, Lily," Martha replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Once the girl had left the room, Nathaniel turned to his mother, his heart racing. "Mom, what do you remember? I need to know." Martha shook her head, her expression distant. "It's all jumbled. but I feel like Lily is somehow connected to that past. I just don't know how. Maybe it's just a coincidence, Nathaniel suggested, trying to rationalize her words. She's just a girl in need, Mom. We're helping her. Yes, but sometimes things happen for a reason. Martha insisted, her eyes narrowing slightly. You need to be open to that possibility. Nathaniel sighed, a mix of frustration and confusion swirling within him. I'll think about it, but right now, I just want to focus on helping her. As he prepared to retire for the night, Nathaniel couldn't shake the feeling that more was at play than mere coincidence. He glanced at the family photo album resting on the coffee table, its worn edges reminding him of the past he had tried so hard to forget. The thought of Lily being connected to that past lingered in his mind, and he resolved to confront his memories when the time was right. But for now, he needed to focus on the present, the small moments that brought light back into his life. With a deep breath, he exited the room, ready to face whatever revelations awaited him on the morrow. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the grand living room of the Brooks mansion. Nathaniel Brooks paced nervously, his mind racing with thoughts of the social worker's impending visit. He glanced over at Lily, who was sitting cross-legged on the plush carpet, carefully arranging her collection of colorful candies in neat little piles. Her youthful innocence and vibrant spirit had breathed life into the mansion, but now the threat of losing her loomed over him like a dark cloud. "Do you think she'll be nice?" Lily asked, looking up at Nathaniel with wide, hopeful eyes. There was a hint of apprehension in her voice, but her determination to remain optimistic was palpable. Nathaniel knelt beside her, forcing a smile. "I hope so. She's just trying to make sure you're okay. That's all." Lily's brow furrowed. "But what if she doesn't want me to stay here?" Nathaniel felt a surge of protectiveness. "That won't happen. I promise you, Lily. You belong here now." He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, his heart aching at the thought of her leaving. Just then, the doorbell chimed, echoing through the expansive hallway. Nathaniel's stomach tightened as he stood up, wiping his hands on his trousers. "Stay here, okay? I'll handle it." Lily nodded, but her eyes betrayed her worry. Nathaniel took a deep breath and crossed the threshold to the foyer, where Mrs. Thompson, the social worker, stood holding a clipboard and wearing a serious expression. She was middle-aged, with short brown hair and a no-nonsense demeanor that immediately put Nathaniel on edge. "Mr. Brooks," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I understand that you've taken in a young girl named Lily." "Yes, I have," Nathaniel replied, shaking her hand firmly. She's been through a lot, and I want to help her." Mrs. Thompson glanced down at her clipboard, her brow furrowing as she flipped through the pages. "I appreciate your willingness to assist, but there are legal implications we must discuss. I need to ensure Lily's safety and well-being." Nathaniel's heart raced. "I can assure you, she is safe here. I provided her with food, shelter, and care. She's like family to me now." The social worker raised an eyebrow, not entirely convinced. "Family's a strong word, Mr. Brooks. We need to consider her past, her history. Living here may not be in her best interest if it's not a stable environment." "Stable?" Nathaniel flared, feeling a rush of anger. "Have you seen this place? I've got everything she needs, and I care about her. Isn't that what matters?" Mrs. Thompson's expression softened slightly, but her resolve remained. "Caring for a child is a tremendous responsibility. We must ensure she has a permanent home. I will need to conduct interviews and gather more information about your circumstances." Nathaniel clenched his fists. "You can do whatever you want, but I won't let her go. Lily is safe here with me and my mother." "Your mother's health is a concern as well," Mrs. Thompson interjected, her tone becoming more serious. "I need to evaluate if this environment is truly suitable for a child." With that, the conversation felt like a tug-of-war, each side pulling in opposite directions. Just as Nathaniel was about to protest further, He heard a soft voice behind him. "Mr. Brooks." It was Lily, her small figure appearing timidly in the doorway. "Is everything okay?" Nathaniel's heart sank at the sight of her worried face. He turned to Mrs. Thompson, a silent plea in his eyes. It's fine, sweetie," he cut in, forcing calm into his voice. "Just talking about some important things." Mrs. Thompson regarded Lily with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Lily, could you come here for a moment?" Lily hesitated, glancing back at Nathaniel. "Am I in trouble?" "Not at all," Mrs. Thompson reassured her. "I just want to ask you a few questions. It's important, okay?" Lily nodded, her apprehension evident as she walked over to stand beside Nathaniel. "Do you like living here with Mr. Brooks and his mother?" Mrs. Thompson asked gently. Lily's face lit up, the spark of hope flickering in her eyes. "Yes, it's really nice. I get to help with things, and Mrs. Brooks tells me stories. I feel safe." Nathaniel felt a swell of pride at her words, but Mrs. Thompson's expression remained neutral. "And what about your life before coming here? Can you tell me about that?" Lily's smile faltered, and Nathaniel felt the weight of the world pressing down on her small shoulders. "It was hard," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But Mr. Brooks helps me. I don't want to go back." Nathaniel's heart ached at the vulnerability in her voice. He stepped closer to her, wrapping an arm around her shoulder protectively. "You don't have to worry about that, Lily. You're not going back anywhere. You're home now." Mrs. Thompson observed the interaction, her expression softening slightly. Home is a complex word, Mr. Brooks, especially for a child like Lily. It needs to be a place where she feels secure and loved, not just a temporary refuge. As the conversation continued, Nathaniel felt a growing sense of desperation. He couldn't imagine his life without Lily. She had brought light into his dark world. He was determined to protect her, no matter the cost. After an hour of questions and answers, Mrs. Thompson finally stood up, adjusting her jacket. "I'll be in touch, Mr. Brooks. Please ensure that Lily has everything she needs in the meantime. I'll need to follow up on this matter soon." "Thank you for your time," Nathaniel replied, his voice firm. As she exited, he felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it was quickly replaced with concern. "Will she come back?" Lily asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know," Nathaniel replied honestly, kneeling down to meet her gaze. "But what I do know is that you're safe here with us. No one can take that away from you." Lily nodded, but Nathaniel could see the fear lingering in her eyes. He knew he had to do everything in his power to reassure her. Later that evening, as the shadows grew longer and the sky turned to deep indigo, Nathaniel found Martha sitting in her favorite armchair, a knitted blanket draped over her frail shoulders. She looked up at him with tired eyes, sensing the turmoil within him. "What's wrong, dear?" she asked gently. It was the social worker, Nathaniel confessed, rubbing his temples. "She's worried about Lily's situation. I can't lose her, Mom." Martha's expression softened. "You won't lose her, Nathaniel. You've already done so much for that girl. But you need to understand something important." "What is it?" he asked, leaning closer. Martha hesitated, her eyes glistening with unspoken emotion. "Lily is more than just a girl in need. There's something about her that could change everything for us, for our family." Nathaniel's heart raced at her words. "What do you mean?" Martha took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "You need to trust me, Nathaniel. I can't explain it all right now, but Lily is connected to us in a way that I can't put into words. You must protect her, not just for her sake, but for our families." He stared at her, a mixture of confusion and fear flooding through him. "Mom, what are you saying?" But before she could answer, a wave of weakness washed over her, and she leaned back into the chair, closing her eyes. Nathaniel's heart sank. The weight of her words hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. He felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his chest, the pieces of the puzzle he didn't yet understand swirling around him. As the night deepened, Nathaniel sat beside his mother, the flickering light of the fireplace casting dancing shadows on the walls. The warmth of the flames did little to ease the chill that crept into his heart. He glanced toward Lily's room, where he could hear the soft sounds of her breathing. "Whatever it is, I'll protect her," he whispered to himself, determination rising within him. "I won't let anyone take her away." In that moment, Nathaniel knew that his life had irrevocably changed. He was not just a businessman or a son. He was now a guardian, a protector. The weight of the world rested on his shoulders, but with it came a sense of purpose he had long yearned for. As the flames crackled and the shadows danced, Nathaniel resolved to confront whatever lay ahead. He had found a family in the most unexpected of places, and he would do everything in his power to keep it intact. Nathaniel sat frozen in his chair, the revelation crashing over him like a tidal wave. Lily wasn't just some girl he had taken in out of pity. She was a fragment of his past, a link to a family history that had been shrouded in neglect and sadness for far too long. The room felt heavy, filled with the weight of unspoken truths and years of guilt. He glanced at Martha, who was watching him with a mixture of hope and fear in her eyes. "Mom, are you sure?" Nathaniel's voice trembled. "You really think she's—" Martha nodded slowly, tears glistening in her eyes. "I can't explain it fully, but the moment I saw her, I felt something deep inside me. It's as if she carries a piece of our past with her. We lost so much, Nathaniel. Maybe she's here to help us find our way back." He ran a hand through his hair, overwhelmed. He thought of all the years spent in isolation, nursing his mother's decline while the world outside continued to move forward. But how can we just accept that? What does it mean for us? Before Martha could respond, a sharp knock echoed through the mansion, shattering the fragile moment. Nathaniel's heart raced as he exchanged a glance with his mother. The knock was urgent, almost demanding. He rose to answer it, his mind racing with possibilities. Standing at the door was a stern-looking woman in a crisp suit, clutching a briefcase. "Mr. Brooks?" she asked, her tone businesslike. "I'm Margaret Lane, and I represent the family of Lily's late mother." Nathaniel's stomach sank. "What do you want?" he managed to say, his voice steely. "We need to discuss Lily's custody. It is imperative that she returns to her rightful guardians." Margaret's eyes were cold, devoid of any empathy. "Rightful guardians?" Nathaniel repeated, incredulity bubbling to the surface. "Do you even know what kind of life she was living before I found her? She's been on the streets, struggling to survive. I won't let you take her back to that." Margaret's expression didn't waver. "The law is clear. Lily's mother had family who can provide for her properly. This isn't about what's best for her. It's about legal rights." Nathaniel felt a protective instinct surge within him. "I'll fight you on this. I can give her a home, a family, something she's never had." "You don't know what you're asking for." Margaret's lips tightened. "You are welcome to contest it in court, but I assure you, we will be there. The family is determined to reclaim their own." With that, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving Nathaniel standing in the doorway, his heart pounding with dread. He returned to the living room, the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Martha," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They're coming for her. We need to prepare." His mother's face was pale, her hands trembling. "Nathaniel, we have to be strong. We can't let them take her away. She's part of our family now." Family. The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Nathaniel had lived for so long in the shadow of loss. But now, with Lily's presence, there was a flicker of hope, a chance to reclaim what had been lost. Nathaniel spent the next few days in a whirlwind. He visited lawyers, gathered documents, and prepared his argument for court. He reached out to friends and colleagues, seeking support and evidence of his commitment to Lily's well-being. Each night, he returned home, exhausted but resolute, only to find comfort in Lily's presence. She was more than a girl who needed help. She was now the daughter he never had, a sparkling reminder of joy that had been absent from his life. On the night before the court hearing, Nathaniel found himself sitting across from Lily at the dinner table. She was quietly eating, her eyes occasionally darting toward him, as if seeking reassurance. "Are you scared?" she finally asked, breaking the silence. "A little," Nathaniel admitted, trying to keep his voice steady. "But I'm more determined than anything. I want to fight for you, Lily. You deserve a home, and I want to be that for you." Lily smiled, her eyes lighting up. "I like it here. It's cozy, and you make the best pasta." She paused, her expression turning serious. "But what if they take me away?" He reached across the table, taking her small, calloused hand in his. "I won't let that happen. We'll fight together, okay? You're not alone in this." "Okay," she whispered, a hint of trust blooming in her voice. The following day, the courtroom felt intimidating, filled with cold steel and harsh lighting. Nathaniel stood at the front, his heart racing as he watched the opposing side gather. Margaret Lane sat with a group of stern-looking individuals who seemed poised to reclaim what they believed was theirs. As the proceedings began, Nathaniel took a deep breath, calling upon every ounce of courage he possessed. He presented his case with fervor, detailing Martha's condition and how Lily had brought light into their lives. "This isn't just about custody," he argued, his voice steady. "It's about love, family, and the chance to give a little girl a life she deserves. For too long, we've lived in darkness. Lily is our chance to find the light again." The judge listened intently, occasionally glancing at Martha, who sat in a wheelchair, her frail body wrapped in a warm shawl. "Mr. Brooks," the judge finally said, "what evidence do you have to support your claim that this arrangement is in Lily's best interest?" Nathaniel swallowed hard, pulling out photographs and documents that illustrated his commitment. "These are records of the time she spent with us, how she's become part of our family. I have letters from her teachers, neighbors. Everyone can see the difference she's made in our lives." As he spoke, he could see Lily's eyes on him, filled with hope and trust. He felt a surge of determination as he continued. "I can't change the past, but I can promise to be there for her, to care for her, to love her. Isn't that what family means?" After hours of testimony, the judge finally called for a recess. Nathaniel felt drained but hopeful, glancing at Lily, who was holding her breath, eyes wide with anticipation. When the court reconvened, the judge addressed the room. "After careful consideration, I believe it's in Lily's best interest to remain in the care of Nathaniel Brooks. While the familial ties of her late mother are acknowledged, the emotional and psychological stability provided by Mr. Brooks cannot be overlooked. This court finds that love and care can be just as vital as blood relations." A wave of relief washed over Nathaniel as he caught Lily's gaze. Tears streamed down her face, but this time they were tears of joy. He rushed to her side, enveloping her in a tight embrace. "You're safe, Lily. You're home." In that moment, surrounded by the remnants of a courtroom filled with conflict, Nathaniel understood that true wealth was not measured by material possessions, but rather by the connections we forge with others. The isolation that had plagued him for years began to dissolve, replaced by a warmth that spread through his heart. As they left the courthouse, hand in hand, Nathaniel felt a sense of renewal. He had fought for Lily, not just because of her connection to his past, but because she represented a chance for a brighter future. Together, they would navigate the challenges ahead, bound by love, family, and the hope that they could heal one another's wounds.